Hey guys, what's going on? So as you know, I posted a video the other day with the Taurus G2C in the high polish finish, and I've gotten a lot of questions on how I actually achieve that. So I'm going to make a video and basically just show you what you need in order to do this project, and how to take it down. And obviously it's already done, but I'll show you the steps needed to accomplish what we've got here. So what you'll need, and you have to forgive my workspace right now, my wife's in there killing a movie, so I'm at the computer desk. First thing you'll need, if you have available, is some latex or vinyl gloves, heavy duty style, because it does get messy and dusty and it sticks to your hand. So get you a set of vinyl gloves. You will need a Torx bit driver number T8 to remove your front sight on your G2C, and you'll need a flat blade screwdriver to remove the rear sight. So you'll need that. You will need 2 punches, and you'll need the 1/8 punch and the 3/32 punch, and you also need a 1/16 punch here. So you'll need those 3 punches. You'll need a hammer. You will need a rotary tool. With that rotary tool, you want to make sure that you do have a wire brush, and I'll leave that out there. So you'll need your rotary tool, and you'll need a Dremel type polishing kit or any generic rotary kit. And all you want to make sure the kit has, this steel brush actually goes in there, so you want to make sure it has some polishing compound. You want to make sure you have the hard fabric wheels. That's actually what you use to polish. And you want to make sure you have the wire brush. So that's what you're going to need as far as that goes. You'll also need some wet dry sandpaper, and you're going to want the combo pack, which includes 220 grit, 500, 1000, and 1200 grit, and you'll need that type of sandpaper. And other than some good old-fashioned time and work, that's all you really need. So I'm not going to actually take this down, but I will show you what you need to do. This is obviously unloaded. So first thing you do is take your slide off, like so. We're just going to set that over here, out of the way. And this is already cleaned and everything, but I'll go ahead and just take this off. You would remove your recoil spring, and you would remove your barrel, like so. And then you basically have your slide. Now I'm putting fingerprints and grease all over it, but that's okay. So first thing you'd want to do, like I said, you would take your front sight off and your rear sight off, and you would use a flat blade screwdriver to remove the screw out of the center of your rear sight, and it just slides off. If you did Loctite it down, you'd just have to pound it off a little bit. And on your front sight, you would use your T8 Torx bit, and you would remove this screw right down in there, and you would remove that, and that'll get your front sight off. Okay? And then what you want to do is you want to take your 1/16 punch, and with the facing away from you, you'll see you have this little pinhole right here. What you're going to do is put your punch through there, If you have a pistol block and or something of that nature, you'd use that, or you can use a roll of tape, like masking tape or duct tape or something like that, and you would put this in there, and you'd take your hammer and you would drive this pin out. Takes a few little whacks and it'll come right out, and when you push that pin out, it's going to come out right there on the extractor side and just pop out. And what that'll allow you to do is remove this loaded chamber indicator right there. So by removing that roll pin, this loaded chamber indicator will come off. And just bear in mind that it is under a little tension with a spring on this back side here. So after you remove that pin, just gently lift it up and remove the spring. It's just kind of resting in there. So you do that. Then if you roll your slide over on the back side, as you can see, you would take your little punch and you would slide this little sleeve, your firing pin sleeve, like so, and you would push that down. And when you push that down, that'll allow you to remove the back plate of your pistol, and your firing pin would come out. And you'll take that out and set that to the side as well. And then right down in here, there's another little pin that holds the extractor and the plunger in place, safety plunger. So you basically would take your 3/32 punch, stick it right down in there, give it a good whack with your hammer, and it'll pop down. And when it pops down, with the punch still in there, you'll be able to gently slide the front part of the extractor right here and just slide it out, and then you'll be able to see the pin sliding under the slide rail frame, and then you'll be able to actually pull the punch out and this extractor will come out. And there is a spring right here under this extractor, so as you take it out, just be cognizant there is a spring there you don't want to lose. It sits in a little recessed groove right there. And after the extractor is removed, you would just flip your side over like so, and at that point this safety plunger and the spring that's underneath of it will come out, and this little pin with the spring under it that holds the extractor in will come out as well. And that's it. At that point your slide is disassembled. So now that you'd have that out of the way, at this point you'd just be looking at a plain satin slide, no sights, no nothing. When you start this, you have to realize that you're going to be in this for about 2 hours. And what you're going to want to do is get your paper out, and obviously we're not doing anything, but you're going to want to start right here with your 220 grit paper. And I cut mine into strips like so. So I had 3 strips and then cut it in 2, so I had plenty. And basically what you're going to want to do, is this would be your 220 grit, and you're going to sand this satin finish. You're going to sand all around this slide with the 220 grit, and you're actually going to notice the actual satin type texture look being sanded off. It doesn't take long with the 220 grit to really get in there and sand that finish off. Like I said, you're just back and forth over the entire length of the slide. The most time consuming parts are, these little rounded parts there, and some of these little curved parts, because you really want to make sure you get a nice full sand on it. You want the full slide to be sanded down, and you do that on all sides with the 220. And then you'll follow suit with the 500 grit. Same thing, sand over the entire slide with the 500 grit now. And each time you go up in grit, spend a little more time, because ultimately the 500 or 250 or 220 grit is removing all the finish. Everything you do after that is removing the scratches that you have embedded into the steel, to remove the heavier scratches and create lighter scratches. So take your 500 and probably spend about 20 or so, 30 minutes, and just file every area you did with the 220 you're going to do with the 500. But I would say, spend the extra 10 or 15 minutes getting all the big grooves out of your all the big scratches out of your finish. So spend a little extra time with the 500 grit. Then you're going to do the same thing with the 1000 grit, except when you get into the 1000 grit and the 1200 grit, you definitely want to take a little more time and just make sure it's good and smooth. Get a fresh piece of sandpaper frequently. It'll build up in there and it won't polish the way it should. You just do the same thing over and over again. And the way I like to see it, if you spent 10 minutes on the side with 220, spend about 15 with 500, and just work it slow, and only work it in one direction. Don't, none of this stuff back and forth and this. One direction. Keep it one direction. Keep all your grooves in one direction on all aspects of the slide. Every step of the way, move the sandpaper in one direction. And if you're actually looking at the steel, you'll be able to kind of see on all aspects of the slide. Up, down, up, down, up, down, all the way around, everywhere, like so. Okay? And on the 1200, that's a very fine grit, and that's where you're going to spend probably, I think I literally spent 10 minutes on each surface, and I really just polished it down as good as it could. That gets any of the other scratches that has been made by the 220, 500, 1000, and that removes all those fine scratches. That's it. You're done with the sandpaper. At that point, what you want to do is get your Dremel, and you're going to want to take a wire wheel, and you're going to take that wire wheel and your Dremel, and you're going to run it over all the surfaces. Obviously, let me state, in between each interval of sanding, wipe the slide down with, you could use glass cleaner or whatever. Just wipe it down to get all the excess residue off. And when you're all finished with the 1200 grit, wipe it down again. Then you're going to use your wire wheel, and you're going to run it all over the entire gun. And at this point in this stage of the game, what you're going to notice once you start hitting this with the wire wheel is you're going to notice that your hazy looking slide, that you're like, oh man, I really messed this up, it's really going to start picking up a really nice finish, and it's really going to start to shine with the wire wheel. I would suggest having a couple of these on hand. You may, I burnt through this wire wheel completely, and then started this. So I'd at least have 2 wire wheels on you, and that'll get you in all these little cracks and everywhere, and run it all down this, and run it all the same direction, up and forth, all over everywhere of the gun that you want to be polished. When you're done with that point there, your slide is gonna look pretty sharp, and it's gonna look fairly shiny, and you're gonna be like, oh man, that looks good, I can be done. Don't be done. Then what you want to do is get your polishing paste and a little pad, and stick the pad in there and smear the polishing paste all over the slide. And when I say all over, you can use it sparingly, but get a nice coating on there. And you're going to polish with the polishing stuff for probably it's going to be a solid probably 20 minutes, and you're going to hit every surface that you wire wheel finish with that polishing compound, and keep going over it and keep going over it. And after about 15-20 minutes of doing that, you'll have that high luster polish that you are looking to get. And as long as you spent the time sanding right and sanding correctly, you will see no lines in your slide. You will have a completely polished slide that you would get on a $8,000, $9,000, $1,500 gun, and you'll have it on your Taurus G2C for all of I had $10 in the Dremel. I got this on sale for $5. I got the Sandpaper for $3.99 at Harbor Freight. The hammer I had, the punches I had, and the gloves were like $8 at Harbor Freight. So for like a few dollars, you can really polish your slide up to look something like that, and just a matter of a couple hours. Rainy day project. So at that point, when you're done with that, you've completed your project, and you'll have your pistol looking just like this one does. Or if you want to spend more time doing it, you can, and make it look better. I just was like, ain't got nothing to do, I'm gonna go ahead and polish this thing up. So I just took the time and did that, and when you're all finished and all said and done, that's pretty much what you'll be looking at right there. So just follow the steps, and shouldn't be any trouble at all. So other than that, if y'all have any questions on this process, just put them in the comments below. As always, thank you for being the best part of the channel. Thank you for watching. Thanks for clicking that like button and subscribing. And we will see you at the range soon. Thanks, guys.